Ever wondered what's shaking up China's economy and causing a ripple effect worldwide? You're about to find out. China, a titan of economic growth, finds itself in the throes of an economic roller coaster. At the heart of this tumult, a once thriving real estate industry that's now on shaky grounds. Imagine this. In a landscape once dominated by skyscrapers rising, we now see protests erupting in major cities, with angry voices demanding the step-down of President Xi Jinping. So, how did we get here? It's a complex story where deflation, pandemic policies, and trade wars have all played their part. But let's start with the real estate industry. Once a veritable powerhouse, it's now a hotbed of uncertainty. The dominoes are falling and the effects are far-reaching, threatening to upend the world's second-largest economy. Deflation has become the unexpected star of the show, with prices taking a nosedive. Now you might think that sounds like a good deal, but here's the twist: deflation breeds uncertainty. It's like applying the brakes on the economy. People hold back on spending, waiting for prices to drop even further. Businesses hesitate to invest. It's a dangerous dance that could lead to an economic freefall. But the plot thickens. During the pandemic, China took a different path. Strict restrictions were the order of the day, but without the financial safety nets seen in the West, no stimulus checks to cushion the blow. That's left the population grappling with uncertainty, hesitant to spend or invest in a future that's become unpredictable. And remember the trade war? The tariffs on Chinese goods started a domino effect. US companies began packing up their manufacturing and heading for the exit. It was a double whammy that the economy didn't see coming. To sum it up, China is sailing in uncharted waters. It's dealing with a collapsing real estate industry, deflationary pressures, and a desperate need for an economic makeover. The world is watching, and we're here to break down the highs, lows, and twists in this economic thriller. As we can see, the Dragon of the East is facing a storm that's brewing from within. Deflation, it's a word that can send shivers down the spine of any economist. Now, imagine a behemoth like China, a global economic powerhouse, grappling with this very issue. The dragon isn't breathing fire anymore. Instead, it's caught in a chilling deflationary spiral. Deflation, in simple terms, is when prices start to fall. At first glance, it might seem like a shopper's paradise. Who wouldn't want to buy more for less, right? But here's the catch. This isn't a limited-time sale, it's a persistent decrease in the general price level of goods and services. Now you might be thinking, so what? Lower prices mean I get to save more. Well, that's where the deflation dilemma kicks in. Imagine you're eyeing a brand new smartphone, but you know that its price is going to drop next week. Would you rush to buy it now? Probably not. You'd wait for the price to fall further. Now apply this logic to millions of consumers and businesses nationwide. The result? A dramatic drop in overall spending and investment. In a deflationary environment, consumers postpone purchases, expecting prices to fall further. Businesses, seeing the drop in demand, hold off on investments and expansion plans. It's like a game of economic chicken where everyone is waiting for someone else to blink first. But the plot thickens when we add debt into the mix. Deflation makes debt more expensive in real terms. So if you borrowed to buy a house or start a business, deflation could make it harder for you to repay that debt. This can lead to a vicious cycle of decreased spending, reduced investment, increased debt burden, and further deflation. The ripple effects of deflation can extend beyond China's shores, affecting global trade and the world economy. It's a precarious balancing act, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Deflation, as we can see, is a double-edged sword that China is struggling to wield. It's not just about lower prices, it's about economic stability, growth, and the future of the world's second-largest economy. In the face of a global pandemic, did China's unique approach help or hinder its economy? A question that has been on the minds of many since the onset of the pandemic. While the world was grappling with a health crisis of unprecedented proportions, economies worldwide were hit hard, and China was no exception. When the pandemic first hit, China responded with swift and stringent measures. The country essentially hit the pause button, implementing strict lockdowns and travel restrictions to curb the spread of the virus. While these actions were crucial in controlling the health crisis, they inevitably had significant economic repercussions. China's approach to pandemic response was distinctly different from many Western countries. In the United States and Europe, governments rolled out stimulus packages, providing financial assistance to citizens to weather the economic storm. These packages included things like unemployment benefits, loans for small businesses, and direct cash payments, often referred to as stimulus checks. But in China, there were no stimulus checks. Instead, the government focused on controlling the virus and getting the economy back on track as quickly as possible. This approach undoubtedly helped in flattening the curve, but it left the population with a high degree of economic uncertainty. With no financial buffer, Chinese citizens found themselves in a tight spot. The lack of stimulus support made them more cautious about spending and investing. This hesitation, in turn, slowed down economic activity, further exacerbating the economic slowdown. The impact of the pandemic and the resulting policies have also been felt in China's labor market. With businesses shuttered and industries hit hard, many Chinese workers found themselves jobless, further fueling the economic uncertainty. So, did China's unique approach to the pandemic help or hinder its economy? It's a complex issue, with no clear-cut answer. While the strict measures taken by the Chinese government were successful in controlling the virus, the lack of financial support for citizens resulted in an economic slowdown and heightened uncertainty. No stimulus checks in China, just a checkmate situation for the economy. As we move forward, the full impact of these policies on China's economy is yet to be seen. What's clear, though, is that the decisions made during the pandemic will continue to shape China's economic landscape for years to come. Trade wars, they're not just for history books, folks. Let's rewind a bit to really get a handle on this. Picture the scene. The year is 2017, and the United States, under the leadership of Donald Trump, decides to take on China in a trade showdown. Trump's strategy? Slap tariffs on Chinese goods, making them more expensive and therefore less attractive to American consumers. Now, this wasn't just a slight increase. We're talking about tariffs that ranged from 10 to 25%. That's a big hit, especially for companies that relied on Chinese imports. And it wasn't long before this economic tug-of-war started to strain the ties that bind the global economy. So what happened next? Well, the fallout was twofold. On the one hand, some US companies decided to pack up their manufacturing and relocate. It was a costly and complex process, but for some, it was better than dealing with the tariffs. This meant a significant reduction in the demand for Chinese goods, a tough blow for a country that was once the world's manufacturing hub. On the other hand, China wasn't just going to sit back and take it. They retaliated with their own set of tariffs on American goods. The result? A slowdown in trade, higher prices for consumers, and a whole lot of uncertainty. But let's zero in on the impact on China. The trade war has undeniably shaken the foundation of their economic model. It's forced them to rethink their reliance on exports and consider other avenues for growth. But that's easier said than done. Transitioning from a manufacturing-based economy to an innovation-driven one is a colossal task, and it's not without its challenges. In essence, the trade war has been a wake-up call for China. It's shown them the dangers of having all their economic eggs in one basket. And while it's clear that they're striving to diversify their economy, the road ahead is fraught with uncertainty. The trade war, a game no one wins, but one that China seems to be losing. China's economic model, once the envy of many, now stands at a crossroads. The titan that was seen as unshakable is now faced with challenges that could potentially reshape its future. Let's dive into the heart of the matter. China's economic model, which was once built on a frenzy of infrastructure development, now faces new hurdles. The most notable among these is a declining population. China's one-child policy, although now relaxed, has left a lasting impact on the country's demographic structure. China is aging rapidly, and with fewer young people entering the workforce, the country's economic engine could slow down. Another major challenge is the need for innovation. The world is moving towards a knowledge-based economy, and China is no exception. The question here is, can China make this shift smoothly? It's a tall order, especially when you consider the country's current reliance on manufacturing and construction. But it's not all doom and gloom. China is also home to some of the world's most innovative companies. Tech giants like Alibaba and Tencent are just the tip of the iceberg. The country has a burgeoning tech scene, and if nurtured correctly, it could be China's ticket to maintaining its economic prowess. However, these challenges aren't just China's problem. The world's second-largest economy plays a key role in the global economy. A slowdown in China could have ripple effects around the world. Countries that rely heavily on China for their supply chains could see disruptions, and global markets could experience increased volatility. So, what does the future hold for China's economic model? It's hard to say. However, one thing is clear. The country will need to adapt and evolve to navigate the challenges ahead. As China navigates these uncharted waters, the world watches, and we'll be here to break down the highs, lows, and twists in this economic thriller.